So welcome. I think this is our 33rd story time.
Wow.
And our requested topics were a robot, stars versus rocks, as in astrophysics versus geology, weird lightning types, interesting bicycles or transport, the challenge of keeping up with challenges, changing the way that you speak depending on who you're with or what you're doing, and wombats. Dad actually said cats, but we've had a lot of cats in story time, and then we were talking about wombats. Thought maybe the wombat animal.
Wombats are my favourite.
Yeah, Mum really likes wombats.
I like wombats too.
Tegan has a great video of a wombat
Mm-hmm.
that's very, very friendly.
From Tasmania.
It's very cute. I like that. And I've recently been getting a lot of things on Facebook for the Wombat Conservation Society or something like that, and there are all these really cute wombats that have been rescued for various reasons, like having cuddles and playing and like behaving just like little dogs really, but little stout furry dogs. Very cute.
Little stout dogs.
But yes, it's caused me to have wombats on the mind a bit.
Yeah.
Stop!
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah, there's space up there.
That's
There
very
is space up there, but I'd have to put this like down somewhere, I think, to see it.
good.
Beth could be Jane Goodall.
Okay, I'm Jane Goodall.
I've settled for Jane Goodall.
I'm not anyone in particular, but this is PB3.
But there is, a huge PB3.
And this is the phases of the moon.
Hmm?
And this is my on button.
Yes.
And I thought I'd wear these today because it's sort of the stereotypical Cyberman.
Yes. Yep. Excellent. Oh yeah, I've got that.
Yep. Those.
And your background, Sarah, makes it look like you're very tiny and sitting on a desk next to
I'm very small in this enormous universe.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Lovely.
Dad, are you being a Jedi or something?
Yeah, I'm a druid.
You're a
He's
druid.
being a
A druid.
That's good.
Yeah, we were the first scientists. We know all about the moon and things.
Yeah.
Wow, very good.
And Tegan's got a cat.
Yes, she came up and yelled at me, so I thought she can say hello.
Aww.
Hello, cat.
Hello. You're a veterinary
Good.
celestial scientist.
Oh, and her name is Midnight, so that kind of
Right.
relates to
I was going to ask
Thanks.
which one it was. This is a little poem for today about kind of Earth and geology and space and all of those things. Our Earth loves to daunt us, towering mountains of rock, ore to ore, electricity in the growling sky, throwing itself to the ground, throwing light and dark, but we who put so much stock in these, moment by wondrous moment, our oceans rising to thrash and tumble, even those who were born in them. And when we are certain that Earth is the fearsome ruler of all, she points out there and whispers, "Oh, I am but small."
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, I like that one very much.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Featuring my junk journal created by
Yay!
Emily, which is very, very...
It's so full. That's awesome. Oh, that's great.
Okay. So today's story is entitled I, Wombot. The afternoon sky hung low and indigo-bellied, the hills and their sparse scrub coats thrumming with blue shadows. As Ella and Bryn stood on the spinifex-covered outcrop, a bright flash of yellow sheet lightning lit up the upper edges of the clouds like momentary sunshine, and a sharp crack of thunder rang out, then melted slowly into a growling rumble. "I'm sorry, Ella," Bryn sighed, with a wry shake of her head. I don't think there are going to be any silent moments up here this time. But Ella spun around, arms outstretched in the humid, howling, buffeting wind. Definitely not, she shouted over another thunderclap. But this is like a thrilling opposite, isn't it? She danced up to Bryn and touched her nose to Bryn's nose. Don't you want to record it? Bryn laughed. I really do, but I didn't bring the electronics. She waved a hand at the ominous sky, for obvious reasons. Ella picked up a rock and hurled it at the ground a few meters away, then spun back around and grinned. Bryn looked momentarily perplexed and then laughed. You didn't hear that land. Ella beamed and bounced. I couldn't hear that sound, she yelled at the valley. A spectacular thunderclap answered her, and a long, winding streak of lightning shot out across the landscape, some parts brighter than others, so that it looked like a shining string of beads. Sound weirdo, Bryn teased, shoving Ella with her shoulder. Sound nerd, Ella responded, shoving her back. Bryn caught her arm and linked their elbows and fingers. I hate to say it, but maybe we should get out of the storm before any of that lightning comes in our direction. Ella pulled a grumpy toddler face. I guess, she admitted. They turned and began making their way back along the outcrop. Big, fat rain droplets beginning to strike the earth, the rich scent of soil and leaf rising like steam. Solid, shadowy movement a little way ahead caught Ella's eye. Is that a wombat? She pointed to the shape incredulously. The wombat was heading solidly and rapidly in their direction, trundling like a small, thick-set trolley. It obviously wasn't thrilled about the thunder, and this seemingly outweighed any concerns about approaching humans as it thudded right past Bryn's foot, almost treading on her toes, and disappeared into the scrub at the foot of the embankment. While Ella and Bryn were having this unusual experience, Ella's brother, Carter, was staring out of the window of his girlfriend Jade's unit, shaking his head at the weather. Gran's gonna get soaked on the Granmobile, he fretted. I should have put an umbrella on it. What if she gets struck by lightning? Jade rolled her eyes from the table, where she was cataloguing her gemstone collection and trying not to knock any of Carter's 3D printed robot parts off of the edge. I'm pretty sure an umbrella would have made the Granmobile more susceptible to lightning strikes, Carter. Why don't you just ask your parents or Ella to pick your Gran up on the way? They're all coming anyway, on our anniversary. She watched Carter for any sign that he might realize this was not appropriate. But Carter was busy watching the robot now. As for the 10th time that morning, it approached the small ball he had placed on the floor, nudged it, failed to move the ball forwards, and got stuck with the ball under one side of its central panel, its small mechanical legs flailing in the air. It's Gran's 1-year anniversary of no driver's license, Carter explained again, extracting the ball. She needs to feel in control. He grabbed at the robot and demonstrated effectively what lack of control looked like as it went skittering away and disappeared underneath Jade's couch. And it's Ella and Bryn's anniversary too. No, it isn't, Jade huffed, laying a piece of rose quartz into her tray next to a ruby. The occasion they're celebrating wasn't even a date. It was an archaeology field trip. A very special archaeology field trip, Carter replied. If you'd grown up with Ella, you'd get it. He smiled with a nostalgia that annoyed Jade. It's less of a first date anniversary and more of the exact moment they knew they were going to be together forever anniversary. He got a faraway look on his face. Jade made a face. Ugh, fairy tale princesses. I swear they turned the volume up on the cuteness for you. Whereas, We're celebrating the day you first cried on a rabbit in public in my presence. That was very vulnerable and honest of me, said Carter, sitting on the floor and putting his chin in his hands, faking what he obviously thought was a cute expression. The robot trundled back out from under the couch at that moment, pursued by Greg the rabbit. He was grunting and trying to bite the robot on what, if it were another rabbit, would have been its tail, but in the case of the robot, was actually a sound sensor. Oi, what are you doing? Stop, Greg! Both of you, behave! Carter launched himself after the robot, and this time succeeded in scooping it up. Greg loped off across the floor, picked up the small bowl that Carter had set down for the robot, and tossed it violently under the bookcase. I think my robot needs some inbuilt laws about how to interact with rabbits, Carter remarked. A robot may not injure a rabbit or through inaction allow a rabbit to cause it harm, snickered Jade. At this juncture, however, their discussion was cut short by the appearance of a drowned-looking Ella and Bryn outside the window, running for the cover of Jade's tiny porch and laughing. Jade watched Carter smile at them out of the window and scramble to his feet to throw open the door as they reached it, so that Ella and Bryn practically fell over the threshold. Shoes! Jade called out, eyeing their wet feet. Greg and the robot both started making a beeline for the open door, and Carter hurriedly pushed Bryn out of the way and closed the door with a thud. Carter! Ella was full of bounce, hugging her brother and dancing about at the same time. We saw a wombat in the rain, and then the lightning did this cool thing where it looked like a necklace, and it wasn't quiet at all, but it was so loud that the small things were quiet. I threw this rock on the ground, and even I couldn't hear it landing. She produced the rock from her pocket. Jade's head bobbed up. Oh, there's a line of rose quartz in that. She came over to inspect it. That sounds like chain lightning that you saw. That's quite rare. You were lucky. Bryn put an arm around Ella. Of course we were. It's our lucky spot, isn't it? Ugh, said Jade. Enough sickly sweet already. She rolled her eyes. Or Carter will cry, she added. The robot re-emerged from where it had been stuck under a chair. How's Botvember going, Carter? Ella asked. She sounded half sarcastic, half still a 6-year-old as she watched the robot turn in a slow circle. Carter groaned. Useless. I'm still trying to get mine to do last Friday's kick the ball task. Everyone else's robots are painting today. He sighed. I'm never going to catch up now. The thunder crashed outside and the robot turned and trundled towards the window. Greg charged out from under the table and tried to attack the robot again. Does your rabbit think the robot is another rabbit? Asked Bryn, sniggering. Carter looked embarrassed. It was supposed to look like a rabbit, he admitted. Ella laughed. Oh, Carter, having seen both a rabbit and a wombat in the past hour, I have to say it looks more like a wombat, if anything. Oh, can we call it Wombat? Jade asked Carter, looking delighted. It's always burrowing under things. She paused. Wombot! She exclaimed, laughing. Ella looked out of the window. Carter, are you responsible for what Gran is driving? Everyone else looked too. Trundling haphazardly up the driveway to the unit's car parking space and almost taking out people's bins as it passed was a very strange vehicle. It looked like the offspring of a wheelchair and a tricycle. Carter and Ella's Gran was semi-reclined in the wheelchair-like seat, steering a third front wheel by means of a Bitzer go-kart-like pulley system, and occasionally moving some pedals in a walking motion. The contraption was emitting a high-pitched whine that made Ella wince. Oh, good, exclaimed Carter. I was worried she might get struck by lightning in this. This weather or this bike thing? Ella retorted. The bike thing looks like it ought to get struck by lightning. It's the Granmobile, Carter wailed. She hurt her back, so I rigged it up to help her zip down the road between here and her place. Ella raised her eyebrows. Would you call what Gran is doing zipping, Carter? She shook her head. Anyway, it's very low to the ground. The only lightning I can actually see striking that is that bowl lightning stuff that was on the documentary the other day. Bowl lightning isn't real, Jade told her. People just think they see it when their eyes are all messed up by the flash. Ella frowned, but accepted this statement without further comment, as the Granmobile bumped on the wall out the front, and Carter went out to help their Gran dismount. Carter followed his Gran inside, telling her to mind the step as though he was an automated train announcement. Hi, Gran, said Ella. How's it going? How's what going? Asked Gran, who was looking a bit rained on. Don't speak colloquial talk to me, Ella. I'm too old. She put down a large bag on the couch, taking up all of the seats. Ella frowned. Carter talks like this too. You just don't know because he puts on this whole other voice for you that's totally not his real one. I do not, Carter objected. Ella folded her arms. Yes, you do. All of you talk in different tones, vocabularies, and even accents, depending who you're talking to. It's like you're faking that you're like the other person, hiding yourself under the way you sound. She looked around. Bryn's the only one who doesn't do it. No matter where we go, she just sounds like Bryn. Ugh, said Jade. Ella, Bryn was shaking her head. That's not on purpose. It's an instinctual thing. Gran sat herself down at Jade's table. I think you'd better get used to being misunderstood, Ella dear, she declared, interrupting Bryn. She took a moment to move a number of Carter's 3D printed creations out of her way and smoothed down the table as though it had a tablecloth, which it didn't. Then she turned slightly in her chair. You must be Bryn, she said, in that tone that's supposed to mean, I know all about you. Pleased to finally meet you. Okay, Gran, Ella sighed. I know I took a while to introduce you. Lovely to meet you too, Bryn beamed, moving around so that Ella's Gran didn't have to twist her back. Ella doesn't like to admit it, but she's so inspired by your music, Mrs. McInnes. Do call me Alice, smiled Ella's Gran, patting Bryn's hand. Ella went into the kitchen and didn't reappear. There are scones in my bag, Granny Alice told Jade, and apricot jam, if you'd like to find a plate for them. I thought the cream might leak a bit too much, what with the little motor on that trike rumbling quite a lot, so I left that home. Jade set her gemstones back on the mantelpiece and pointedly put the box for Carter's robotics equipment up on the table. Carter said you hurt your back, she remarked. How did that happen? Are you feeling any better? Carter's Gran shook and nodded her head almost at the same time, which Jade realised was fair, considering she'd asked 2 questions at once. I've been doing the baby shark ab workout challenge, Gran replied. Bryn's eyes widened, but she managed not to laugh in surprise, which Jade respected. I was doing very well, Gran told them. 23 out of 30 days I'd done, before I did my back in getting down onto the mat. Jade went and got the cream from the fridge, dodging the sulking Ella. She poured some cream into a little dish and went back in to set it on the table with a teaspoon. Oh, what a shame, she sighed sympathetically. It's so frustrating when you get that far with challenges and then have to stop. She eyed Carter out of the corner of her eye. It always feels like once you miss a day or 2, there's no point anymore, doesn't it? Gran nodded crossly and broke a scone in half, not bothering to ask for a plate. Yes, she said, reaching for the apricot jam. Just then, The newly named Wombot sauntered across from the couch to Granny Alice's chair and became stuck on one of the chair legs, flailing and whirring. "Oh, hello there," Gran exclaimed, leaning down as much as her back would allow. "What are you then?" "Oh, for heaven's sake," snapped Ella from the kitchen doorway, where she'd drifted in fascination despite herself. "First, all of you, even Bryn, start talking in your special Gran voice, and now Gran is talking to Wombot in a pet voice." "He's very cute, isn't he?" Granny Alice commented, smiling down at the robot. Whilst this was going on, Ella and Carter's parents, Becca and Kev, were arguing in the car. They were late, which was completely normal, but in this case was being made more extreme by the weather. There were all kinds of things blowing around in the wind, and so far a pair of underpants, someone else's windscreen wiper, and what looked like the title page of somebody's thesis had blown across their windscreen as they tried to traverse the wide open space of the freeway. Forked lightning could be seen over the hills, cracking the sky into broken plate shards, and Becca hoped the girls weren't still up at the national park. Yet it wasn't the storm that Becca and Kev were arguing over. It was something Kev had seen on the internet just before Becca shooed them out of the door. A blog article entitled "Stars versus Rocks." "What does that even mean?" Becca had asked as she looked over his shoulder. "If it's like rock, paper, scissors, then I can tell you a star will happily melt a rock." "No," Kev had murmured. "It's a battle of the sciences. Astronomy versus geology. Which is better?" Becca had shrugged then and said, "Who knows?" But Kev had since decided that astronomy was far more important and exciting, which had had the effect of convincing Becca that he must be wrong. "Space stands for progress," Kev was saying, as he squinted past the flailing windscreen wipers. "It's all that out there, with so much that we don't know. It's just bigger. There's more to research." Becca turned the demister up to a higher setting. "That's not true, though. There's so much we don't actually know about Earth. We only think we know. Everything here came from space once." Kev indicated left and swore at a BMW that was deliberately speeding up to stop him crossing the lane ahead of it. "That just proves my point," he declared. "If all of geology actually just comes out of astronomy at some point along the line, doesn't that mean it's really only one small bit of the much bigger thing that's the universe?" He finally got across the left lane and onto the exit and wound around a small roundabout. "Don't drive like a lumbu, Kev," Becca told him, checking behind them for impatient trucks. She frowned. "And don't speak McInnes language to your mother. You know she'll get cross and not understand, and then Ella will get annoyed." They pulled up to the curb outside Jade's block of units. The moment they got inside, Kev asked everyone else their opinion on stars versus rocks. Jade said, "Definitely rocks," and Carter said, "Definitely stars," at the same time, and the room started to divide in two. Wombot waddled back and forth between them as though he couldn't decide. Gran watched Wombot fondly. "I'm not sure I get that debate," Bryn mused. "I mean, aren't geology and astronomy just different branches of science, both dedicated to understanding how things work around us?" Ella, who had resigned to quietly eating a scone and trying not to point out everyone else's changes in voice, looked up at her. "Yeah," she said, slowly looking around at the others. "They both rely on other sciences to work too, and when it boils down to it, it's all interconnected." Bryn smiled. "Exactly. You can't take the rocks out of space, and rocks on Earth can tell us about space too, and vice versa. In fact, Earth is in space, but it's like a model we can actually inspect up close. They're just different ways to look at the same fabric of the universe stuff. You can look at this huge, overwhelming version of all of space and time with everything at once in it, or you can spend time looking in depth at the composition of one particular rock, and maybe you even make some of the same conclusions. Ella grinned. I get it. You're saying it's like my version of sound versus yours. Ugh, said Jade. Why don't you make some tea, dear, said Gran. Carter, who had had Wombot in his lap, plugged into his laptop while all of this was being discussed, pulled out the cable and carefully set Wombot and the small bowl back on the floor. There was a sudden hush, and they all instinctively turned to see what Wombot was going to do. At first, it seemed like the little robot was doing nothing at all. Then, very, very slowly, Wombot approached the ball and stopped just in front of it. Carter bit his nails. Wombot lifted one foot, millimetre by millimetre, shifted it forward, and then, with a tiny explosive tap, knocked the ball 3 centimetres. Everybody cheered. Wombot kicked the ball! He kicked the ball! Shouted Carter, dancing about and nearly treading on his creation. Ella high-fived him. Then her eyes focused on the window, and she frowned and pointed. What's that? They all shifted towards the glass. Moving down the side of the unit, diagonally opposite, was a flickering, bright sphere of light, soft yet somehow charged and rapidly moving towards them. I think a star has fallen, Carter declared, looking shocked. Then the sphere moved out of sight and connected with where they knew the Granmobile was parked up against the front wall. There was a deafening bang, and Ella grabbed onto Bryn. Then there was silence, and everyone slowly lowered their hands from their ears and raised their heads. Ella was frowning. Crackling, she said, by way of explanation, and everyone cautiously moved towards the front door. Outside, where the Granmobile once sat, was some roughly wheel-shaped black stuff, and a few small flames flickered on remnants of cloth from the seat. Kev stamped on them, and the rain started up again and took care of the rest, ashy rivers running into Jade's small rosemary hedge. Still think ball lightning is a myth? Ella asked Jade. Jade shook her head, wide-eyed. See, she said to Carter, Earth sciences still have mysteries too. They all retired inside for a sit-down, a scone, and a cup of tea. Greg made some headway on his project to demolish Jade's table legs, and no one objected, their minds too full of the fascination of what they'd just observed. Then there was a sharp knock at the door. What now? Exclaimed Carter. I'll get it, Ella offered, remembering her earlier annoyance. Since I'm the only one who can speak to strangers in my normal voice. She got up and went to look out at the peephole in Jade's door. A uniformed police officer was standing on the doormat, looking sturdy and upright with her arms folded. Ella blinked. She opened the door. Good afternoon, ma'am. How may I assist you? She asked. Behind her, Carter made a snorting, coughing noise, and Ella felt her skin tingle as she went pink. G'day, said the cop. I got to report some kind of unsafe vehicle that was heading around this way. Wondering if you'd shed any light on what it is and who it belongs to. Went Carter from the dining table. Was it a sort of track thing are you after? Ella responded. Inside, Bryn gave a delighted squawk and put her hand over her mouth. The police officer looked at Ella as though trying to decide if she should take offence. Yeah, nah, that'd be the one, I reckon. Ella could hear Carter moving his toolkit out of the room behind her. Oh, yeah? I reckon that might have had something to do with us. But I'm not kidding. Just now, big bloody ball of bowl lightning thing came down here. Now all we've got these charred wheels. She pointed out the ruins of the Granmobile. Oh yeah, replied the police officer, looking suspicious. From what I've heard, ball lightning ain't legit. It's our anniversary today, Ella tried, smiling. Been a strange one. She saw the policewoman's eyes flick to the crowded living room behind her. What? All of you's got anniversaries, answered the cop. All except me, Gran piped up. For me, it's... Carter put a scone slice into her mouth. There was a skittering by Ella's heels, and before she knew what the sound was, Wombot trundled between her feet, over one of the police officer's boots, and out into the storm.
Oh.
No, Wombot, don't escape that way, Carter called in dismay. But Wombot wasn't using his sound sensor. That was when the light appeared, seeming to roll along the ground this time, emitting a crackling hum. Ella pointed mutely, and the police officer followed her gaze and stared, just in time to see the ball of light collide with Wombot. There was another loud bang, some sparks flew, and the bowl lightning disappeared. So did most of Wombot. Yeah, nah, exclaimed the police officer, shaking her head. I'll stand corrected. She looked from Ella to the ashy remains of the Granmobile, to where Wombot had been, and back again. Well, I guess if there ain't any unsafe vehicle to see, can't find you. Just remember to stay safe in future. She gave Ella a curt little nod, turned, and walked back down the common driveway. Earth 1, Space Tech 0, said Becca, patting Carter on the back. No, Ella mused. Nature of the universe 1, our attempts to know it all 0. Stupid Asimov, stupid Botvember, Carter grumped, looking sorrowful. Why did Wombot do that? What happened to protecting his own existence? It conflicted with the first law, Jade told him sagely, coming to stand at the door with a hand on his shoulder. Wombot could not, by inaction, allow us to be fined for your illegal motorbike. And that was the end of some things, such as Wombot 0.1, Jade's skepticism about bowl lightning, and the Granmobile. But like the ever-expanding universe, the McInnes clan had no capacity to stop, or to turn down a challenge, even when it would probably never be seen through or might do someone's back in. And so they turned their backs on this mark in time and went back to their tea and scones. And with that, it was not the end of the year just gone in their universes, but the beginning of the next.
Oh.
Mm.
That's lovely.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
Oh, Wombot.
Yeah, you killed him.
No.
Carter will make Wombot 0.2.
That's true. Yes, that's true. Very, very good point. That was great. That was great.
That was a lovely story.
I really... Oh, sorry, go on.
I was going to type in the chats, you know.
Oh, right. I thought you...
Oh.
Oh, you have managed to type in the chat, have you?
Well, I typed in.
Oh, you typed in Hi Margaret.
Hi, Margaret, but I was going to type in all little phrases like, you know, a wombat moving solidly towards people. those cute little phrases, I just love them.
Yes, all of the descriptions of Wombot's movements were very good.
Love
He kicked the ball!
Yeah, and something, and I love the final success, which was not what you'd call like.
Not highly successful, but
No.
for the robotics person, highly successful. Yeah, I'll send a link to the Storytime chat later. to the video where I got that idea, which is of
Mm.
robots not doing a very good job of what they're supposed to do.
Oh, excellent. I think I've seen something like that. I don't know if it's that one in particular,
Yeah.
but I would love to watch that one. Oh, that's great.
A thing occurred to me during it, and I can't just remember why, but you know, losing vital bits of things which then don't function.
Yes.
That would be a good topic for a future
Mm.
Oh,
story.
yeah, it's okay.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll put it down. December. Losing the vital bits.
Mm-hmm.
That's like having an IKEA.
Of
Okay.
machines or
Discovering
like,
you have 3 bolts missing.
yeah.
You've got the diagram and all the parts and the.
Oh.
That's why when you get your IKEA thing, you have to like take out the manual and look at the page where it shows you what should be in the kit. Because if you're missing something at that point, you can go back and say, I need more of these plastic screw things or whatever.
Mm.
I know, but what about when there are 6 different types of screws?
Yes. It
And
takes
there's
quite a while
one
to
for
be like, is that
And
that
you're-
one or that one?
Yeah, exactly. And they
Yeah.
and the instructions sort of say, you know, insert screw.
No,
And-
the instructions are pictures. They're even worse.
Yeah,
That's right,
I
that's
feel
right.
that.
Most of the time they're
With
quite
arrows.
good.
Yeah.
That's true.
As long as you
Mostly.
can recognize what object in the pack it's actually referring to. Yeah.
The problem is that the pictures are 2-dimensional, with arrows pointing to things that you've got to put together that are not 2-dimensional, but
Yes.
4-dimensional.
Yeah.
Sometimes it gets very Escher on you. Like
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
sort of optical, you can't tell which side you're meant to put the thing in. Yeah.
Mm.
And I always regard IKEA as 4-dimensional because the 3 dimensions of space are there, but the 4th one is the bloody time it takes to put it together.
Yeah.
There's definitely a time
Flat
dimension in
packed for your
IKEA.
convenience.
Yeah.
You go,
Oh, also you have to
But
account for the
you're
time it
sending
takes.
instructions.
You also
get
have
through
to
the
account for the
store,
time.
that's
Yes,
right,
exactly.
yeah.
To get through IKEA.
Because there's
The
definitely
time it
like
takes to,
there
like-
are wormholes in there, right?
Exactly, there are. And also you've got to account for, like, if you're with someone else, you've got to account for at least one argument in the IKEA
Yeah.
store.
Absolutely.
That's also necessary.
And
Also-
you need to take enough
Food,
extra
probably.
money because you'll not
Mhm.
go home with what you planned.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
But
exactly.
Several things you didn't plan.
With several other things.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, I want to throw another thing in because it sort of comes from this IKEA thing with 6 different kinds of screws. Like, you know, the thing of like tidy up as you go along. So you're
Mhm.
making things, you know, doing your cooking, wipe the surfaces, get those few dishes, you know, that thing. So it
Yeah.
becomes a bit of a habit. And then you get your IKEA thing in all their little packets. So you take all the screws out of their packets and put them on, you know, the floor in various sizes. And then you look at the instruction thing and it goes screw A. And you realise the little plastic bags or whatever they were in actually had labels like A and things. And
You've taken
you've
them
got
all
to
out
put them, you know,
and
you-
and thrown the packets in the way already. Yeah.
which got
Oh,
emptied
no.
you know, this morning.
Yeah.
Mm.
Looks like IKEA better be in the things for next time.
Yeah, I think IKEA
Yeah.
is in there.
IKEA in
They're
general.
all similar, yeah.
IKEA.
Okay.
And the problems encountered within IKEA.
So
Also,
finding your way out's a problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
It reminds
had that
me.
trouble with IKEA. I do help put a whole kitchen together, and I didn't have trouble.
Oh, brilliant!
I
Ah.
must have been just a little bit too organised, I think.
Yeah. Well, we all need to get you in when we have IKEA.
Obviously.
I
I
think
did what
that
Anne said. I would divide up all the little packets and have them all in the order that they were in the brochure, so that
Oh.
you knew exactly which one you had to get. There were none of these
that
packets.
sounds like
with some
way
stuff.
too much prep. You won't get any
Absolutely.
praise once you've finished assembling this.
I had the whole kitchen units together in less than a day. But you get to a point where you can't do any more until it's constructed.
Yeah.
Certain parts you've got to construct, and then so it's like a big jigsaw puzzle, really. Yeah, jigsaw
Pretty sure I
puzzle.
could, I'm pretty
Jigsaw
sure I
puzzle.
could
Jigsaw
take
puzzle would
a
be
whole day to do one cupboard, Margaret.
No, you just.
No, I would.
But then you got to remember, I'm a visual person, so those drawings there. Yep, spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
I
way
was
you
gonna
need
say, I
to do
think
it. Mhm.
Margaret have a like much greater than average, like mental rotation and visualization
Yeah.
sort of skills.
Yeah,
because
like
Margaret can also look at like an origami diagram, and the rest of us are going,
what? Yeah,
how did
right,
they get
yes.
from there to there? And she'll
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
explain it to the rest of us.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think also the maze to get through IKEA.
Mm.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's
still
a
okay.
real maze. You, like,
I found every shortcut there was known to man. Like I could just whiz through that store and go cut there, cut there, cut there.
yeah.
I'd even cut into the thing illegally as well. I'd go out the entrance and I could cut back in. Go out the exit. I could cut through and end up at the
Kitchen.
at the kitchen.
Ah,
Yeah, sort of
No,
trying to do that
half
off.
the time when you try and take a shortcut in IKEA, you just
Around
end
the
up
circle.
going a longer way because the things don't connect the way you expect them to.
You got to remember, Mark's a hike leader.
Did you plan it out before?
That might have been his hike for the day.
That's true.
They do have maps up.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're good
Yeah,
at
they
reading
do
maps,
have maps
probably
up and you
work it
can look.
Yeah.
The maps don't show the shortcut. They show you the
No,
way. to
they want you to go the
Oh,
long
they
way
do
around.
show the shortcuts if you look for it.
Mhm.
They've got little gaps on it.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
Well, I think next time you go to IKEA, Tegan, take a whiteboard marker and like
Yeah.
write the shortcuts out.
Yeah, point them out.
Yes.
That'll be good.
The other thing that's related to buying IKEA items, well, not specifically IKEA items, but buying household items, is then when you get them out your car at the other end and you go, there's steps up to my front door, or there's steps up to this place, and there's this huge item, and I'm alone.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, like you've had help to get the stuff out to your car. Or
Yeah.
There's been
Yeah.
someone at that
And
end,
then
and you get
the
home and you're
other
like, wait a
end.
minute.
Yeah,
I don't have
that's
the IKEA staff at this end.
Exactly.
It's me.
Yeah,
When
you just
we were-
think about getting it
or
in.
like, you have one of those big trolleys
On
and
the-
you're out there.
Mm-hmm.
When we were in Southampton, we saw we went to the IKEA, as you do, because that's why you go to Southampton. And we saw a young
That's true.
woman,
People do.
young woman taking a mattress home, carrying the mattress. wasn't
How was
she?
she carrying a mattress?
Wow.
She had a trolley.
Oh, she took a trolley.
She was
Yeah.
taking a mattress home,
Yeah.
walking.
Wow.
We offered to help her carry it, but I think she thought we were, one of those odd couples.
I was worried.
She
it
thought
came-
you were stranger danger.
Yeah.
Stranger danger,
Trying
often
to find out where she lived or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That reminds me of Mum and I have this term that we always use where when we just say it's like one of those puzzles. And what we mean when we say it's like one of those puzzles is, does anyone remember the little, they're like a physical puzzle, and the ones I remember were plastic ones where they had a bunch of, like a grid of little tiles, and it was kind of like a jigsaw puzzle in that you had to match
Rubik's
them up
Cube.
to make the picture, but there was one, there was one
There's only
empty
one
one, and you had
empty.
to,
Oh yes, I know those.
so you had
yeah.
to keep moving things. So
Our flat
we
is
always,
like one of those
Yeah.
puzzles.
exactly, lots of houses are like one of those puzzles, because the thing is, you're like, okay, well that just needs to go there, but in order
Yeah.
for that to go there, I have to move that over there, but to get that
Yeah.
over there, that has to go over here, which
Yeah.
then needs to go there, and
Yeah,
it just
it's
becomes
kinda
more and
solving
more
a
complicated.
Rubik's Cube.
Yes, like a Rubik's Cube. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Oh, we
Like
call that-
Rubik's Cube is the, like
Rubrics.
rubrics for assessment.
We call that a Bert and Ernie situation.
That's right.
Oh.
I
Because
had
there's
a
a
book
book
when I
that
was
Sarah
a
has the kid. Yeah. And in the book, what happens is he breaks the pencil
What's
holder
the
or
first
something.
thing that
He
happens?
wants-
It's like, is it the piggy bank? There's
Might be the
something.
piggy bank. I don't know. But what he ends up, the stuff that's in the piggy bank, he puts in the goldfish bowl. He puts the
Mhm.
goldfish in a jar.
Oh,
it's
yes,
on the
yes.
pot, and he just goes,
Yeah,
oh.
no,
Yeah,
and everything's
yeah.
in these places.
When Bert comes back, he says, well, where's the crayons? Well,
Yes.
I had to put this in
Where the
there.
crayons there in the cookie
This
jar.
is there.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Oh, exactly. Yes. Well, that's what I want to request. I want to request something about one of those kinds of
Yeah.
puzzles
Okay,
/ Bert and Ernie
yeah,
situation,
I would just
whether
write in
with
quotes,
physical objects or
one
otherwise.
of those puzzles.
Yeah.
Because you've got to be precise, Sarah.
Slash
Yeah.
Bert and Ernie, and I'll know what that
Bert
is.
and Ernie.
A Bert and Ernie, exactly.
Bert and Ernie. Right.
It comes up so often. It's just amazing how often
Yeah.
I think of it.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
often it
We say it
occurs.
all the time about all sorts of things. Yep.
Well,
Yep.
right. So those topics all go really nicely together. Does anyone want to
do.
kind of throw me a curveball
Yeah,
one
yeah,
that doesn't
something
fit?
different. Yeah.
I was going to say you could have a spanner in the works, but that's a bit too
That's too
appropriate,
close,
isn't
That
it?
still
Yeah.
works for me.
Yeah, it works
That
really
works too
well.
well.
A
Yeah,
spanner.
What was
That would be fun though.
what
Right,
about
right, don't
wait, what about that thing, Mum, that you saw twice and then you didn't see a third time? What was it? It was that church with the map in
Yeah.
it? Medieval map
The
in it?
church is mapping it.
Maybe this
I'm
needs to be the third iteration of the church with the map in it.
Yes, I'm waiting for the third thing because my mum always said that when you come across something random or interesting or strange, and it happens twice, it's definitely going to happen a third time. And by the time it's happened the third time, you have to take notice. It's trying to tell you something.
Yeah.
So I've had 2 references to something I'd never heard of before, but within days of each other. It was the Hereford Cathedral, and in the Hereford Cathedral there's a Mappa Mundi, a map of the world, which is 11th century or something really old, and it's the oldest known map of its kind in the world.
Wow.
But the fact that I saw references to it twice within days of each other was really quite strange. So you could mention the Mappa Mundi in Hereford Cathedral.
All right.
Well, if you want
That's
something
very unrelated.
similar, I've also got something which happened like twice in a week.
Yeah.
And it's quite random. References to the Standard Oil Air family.
The
Like, so Standard Oil was like one of the companies that owned like most
Oh, as in
America?
heirs to that.
the heir to the Standard Oil.
Oh,
Oh,
That's
weird.
really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that is odd.
Yeah.
Better put them in as well then.
What was that?
The heir
Put
to
them in as well in the
Hmm.
story.
the heir to the
Yeah.
Standard Oil Company.
Essentially. Yeah, because
How
one of them
odd.
was, it made sense because I was doing an online course which, amongst other things, was talking about like different types of energy. So they talked about oil and they talked about the history of oil. But then the same week, Taylor Swift put out her album Folklore. And in one of the songs, she sang about someone who used to live in the house that she now lives, and it was the heir to the Standard Oil.
That's so weird.
So,
Wow.
well, when you get the third one, there's something important about that. You're going to
Something important about Standard
Okay.
Oil.
So
Yeah.
I think that this concept about like if the random thing comes up twice,
Yeah.
it's going to happen.
Have
So
you
it
had
has to
to oil in
be
your
part
car
of-
recently?
Yeah, I think that has to be part of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It,
If
Yeah.
you
and
check
these
the oil in
things-
your car, because that could be what it's telling you.
Yeah, maybe you need to
Nothing
check the oil in your car.
Take the oil in your car.
Well, I did actually
mundane
a couple
message.
of weeks ago buy a new car.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
Well,
We
That's a good selection of fun topics. I think that's going to be good.
yeah.
The other thing I was going to quickly ask you, here is I'm writing kind of the forward and afterward bits for the second year at the moment, and I said lots of the things I would talk about in the first book. So this time, what I'm doing is I'm just answering questions. So if there's anything that you'd like to sort of quiz me on that I could respond to in those bits of the book.
Okay.
About
Can
Storytime or
we-
sort of general creative stuff, I guess.
Could we put questions in the Storytime chat as we think of them?
Yes.
Okay.
Great idea.
Cool. All right. I will think on it. I'll think on it and come up with some questions.
All right. Yeah, it doesn't have to be
Right,
like
that was
it's mum's
fantastic fun today. I loved it.
yeah, it was a great story.
Very good. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh,
So everyone, we're going to go and feed ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh,
all
very
right,
good.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Important.
Important.
Go and get some food.
All
Thank
right.
you all
Very
for
good to see
coming
you
along.
all.
It was good fun.
It was. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. That was great.
Yeah. Yeah.